when we began, at least a couple of years ago, or a year ago or so, when I first started talking about more infrastructure, we were going to involve rural water district. How is this taking into consideration any of their additional dollars going into the project, as well as grant money that could be granted because of that? I think we had talked about there was $1 million or so available potentially in grant money that we could get if we did involve rural, and also capacity-wise, being able to handle rural on top of our own possible expansion. Because one of my biggest concerns about working off the existing plant is you're capped at 2.
Yeah.
There is no further growth potential available there, and the hope, of course, is that you will have growth. And if you want to tie into rural 3 and maybe even 2 in the future, you're going to want to have the ability to go further. They did put some skin in the game in the initial testing. Was that 3, I believe, that was in doing that? And if we have them in this too, you know, the cost is going to be spread out not only amongst our own people, but additional. And also, I mean, I'll just say it personally, I buy maybe 5 cases of water right now a month. At $3 a case, $15. There's the difference in my water bill that I probably wouldn't be buying if the water quality or the taste, or however you want to put it, was in a different place. Other people, if they're using a water softening system, maybe it's $30 a month, which they might not need. It's also wear and tear on your appliances if they're using water, dishwashers, washers, dryers, etc., that you'd be saving going to a better system. Also, you're looking at that, you have the cost structure, 1.5, or 1.6, I believe you said, for river on the existing, 1.5 for the river on the new plant, versus 1.2 using the lake water. Over time, that's, you know, 0.3 per 1,000 gallons, and we use how many gallons a year? So over time, I'm looking at the return on investment right there, investing in using the lake water versus using the current water structure, plus not seeing the fluctuation, which is going to cause additional monitoring and additional chemical costs, as you mentioned, to constantly have to fight extra debris going into that river water, or wash off from storms or farming, etc., that you're not seeing fluctuate as greatly coming from the lake.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and the, you know, rural water 3 would still be on the table potentially, and I think that all the options would still cover their need,
Yeah,
right?
as far as capacity of the plant, we've got enough built in.
But yeah, like I said, there's not a lot of flex on the first 2
Yeah.
options. The, with rural water 2, you can correct me if I'm wrong though, the plant would really have to be built over in Glen Elder to be able to have them on board, right? That's what I've heard, we'd have to build a pipeline
It would
back.
be more attractive because we could use their infrastructure and
Yeah.
build on it.
3 we can hook into really
Correct.
easily. What, and the other discussions I guess we've had a little bit too, as far as grants for some of that, I think we need to explore a lot more of that, I understand that, is you started getting into some of those and you have to use the Davis-Bacon wages, prevailing wages, so you get $1 million, but it costs you $1 million more in wages to get it built, because you have to do it through the union stuff. So those are those competing things of, you know, you go through those headaches, and, you know, we need to vet more of those, and those are all good comments on this, you know, kind of the thought process we've had so far, trying to think of how to do this too, but.
I think we have to give to a date. If you're in by this date. If you're not, then we're moving forward. And give them a fair amount of time to make that decision in their own.
They've had a fair amount of time.
Right, but we haven't set a date
Yeah.
of when we're gonna do it. I mean, I agree that we need a new water plant, and the need is there, but we can't be hemming and hawing about this for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
We need it.
I agree with him. It's like, hey, we're moving forward. You're either coming in right now, we're designing this, we're moving forward.
John, I
We
guess,
can't keep waiting for them.
as far as a water rate is considered, you know, I mean, you've installed these new plants, you know, going from an old plant, you know, you put in a brand spanking new one. I mean, what kind of percentage increases have you seen on water bills? I mean, what's a norm? I mean, is 20 to 30% a normal thing, or is that
Yeah.
abnormal, or?
Yeah,
Because I've heard some nightmare things on
That's pretty
sewers.
low,
Okay,
actually.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I mean, water's gonna get more expensive no matter what,
Yeah.
no matter where you're at.
When the whole sewer, this is like an anecdotal, when the whole sewer crackdown here the last 10 or 15 years went down, you know, I know especially some smaller communities up in the Iowa, that's the only thing I can speak to is, you know, they saw, you know, almost doubling of their sewer rates, because there's just a base cost to building a sewer plant, you know, it's kind of the same thing here, it's just, there's just such a, there's a minimum threshold it takes to build a sewer plant, or water plant, whether it's for 1,000 people or 3,000 people, that it can be pretty burdensome.
But obviously that would help get more customers to the street. Cost.
Yeah.
Do we have the debt capacity for all four options?
Well, this would be a revenue bond, so it doesn't really count towards our,
This one.
yeah, it doesn't count towards our debt capacity, because it's all based on revenue projections.
And
You're looking at 30 years, 20 years?
That's what we've used for these calculations.
I think USDA can finance for 40,
Yeah.
so.
How long was the sewer plant set up on, and how many dollars was it?
I believe was it a 20-year note for the sewer plant, or?
Yeah,
20 year?
Yeah, yeah, it's really good, 1997.
Yep, and it's about to be,
Was it like
It's
$4
done.
million?
yeah, how much was the sewer plant when they built it? How much was
Gosh,
the sewer?
is that 3 million? Almost 3
How much
million?
was it?
3 million,
Almost
just
3 million.
97, yep. Ours in our town is built in '06, and it cost us about 5.5 million, so I mean, you can see the cost progression. So we put it on a 20-year note too.
I guess a question. The trend in regulation is to continue to get more stringent, not to back off on any requirements. With the renovation option, how much room do we have for increased regulation to actually be able to put in additional membrane or additional filtering
You're pretty
process?
tied to go in that next increment. You have to go off-site somewhere.
Whereas
Which
if
makes
we
it even more
built,
complex, but.
if we built a new facility, we would have additional room potentially
Right.
to,
Actually, on a new facility, I would design it so that KDHE is gonna require you to have 50% redundancy. So your membranes are already gonna be able to produce 3 million gallons a day, just by requirement. It won't let you do what we're doing now, running everything full blast. And then, clarifiers, the other piece of equipment there, we would have it designed so it's easily expandable to the next increment, another 1 million gallons a day. So it would pretty much be built in already. Whereas the existing plant can be done, but we're gonna have to think creatively how it can be done.
John, and the other communities that you work with comparable to our size, how do our water rates compare to theirs?
We're very low.
Ours are,
Yeah.
For surface water.
by how much?
Oh, maybe 20%. I mean, it just depends on where they're at. If they've got a plant they almost have paid off,
Right,
then they're cheaper, but.
And there's a big difference between surface water and well water, you know, I mean, well water can be pretty cheap to treat.
A lot of people are trying to plan now for the future. They're already ratcheting up their water rates even though they're not doing anything. They know they're gonna do something in 5 years, so they're
so they're
start
putting money ahead.
easing the cushion now, yeah. The cushion, I should say. Well, never a good message.
What are you, new plant, okay? Where are you looking at putting this new plant? Are you somewhere within the city limits here, or? So we're
Around East Main over there.
over there on East Main,
Yeah,
there
right
by
here.
the new street
Sounds
there.
good.
That's all right. But
you don't know how to do neighborhood.
I don't know.
I guess I'll defer to Jim and John on what the potential location is. That's
Yeah,
tricky.
one to the west, kind of toward the airport, and maybe toward 24 Highway, kind of that. We'd like to stay a little bit closer to the existing sludge lagoons, because we're gonna need those. So that keeps our costs down, so we don't have a lot of piping going over there. So, I mean, we're not tied by any means. If we went with number 3 and built a new plant, we wouldn't take all the water that's serving rural 3 back to Beloit. We'd put pumps in dedicated and run it out to the highway. That'd just make more sense. You know, just some strategic things like that. It kind of depends on what we're doing, but we can build all the flexibility in we want to. But, rehabbing an existing plant will work. It's gonna be a lot more difficult, especially on the river water, because we have to put in a clarifier, and then we have to run it over here to the filters, then we gotta run it back somehow, so we get contact time for chlorine, and it just gets very expensive for a contractor, and very complicated. And then you got all the old infrastructure still that you're gonna have to upkeep, and eventually you're gonna have to replace piping buried under there, and it's not, all it's, infrastructure rehab's not gonna go away in 30 years, you know.
How big of a site would you need for that facility?
We need a minimum of 2 acres.
Really?
Yeah, so 4 acres would be ideal. What I would envision have everything under a roof, so, and we have a, depends on what your architecture desires are, but I'm just thinking about a metal building and, something that's expandable still. You see, even though we don't think we're gonna be more than 3 million gallons a day 4 years from now, we still leave a little bit of space, over in the corner for growth.
Is the construction estimate for rehabilitation versus a new facility about the same, or are you talking a year for one and a year and a half to 2 years for the other?
Timeline.
What kind of timeline are we looking at? on that?
Yeah, it takes longer when you're trying to keep the plant operating while you're building.
So it'll actually be faster to build a new one than just
Yeah,
take
for
the old
sure.
offline?
Yeah, greenfield construction is a lot cheaper, for sure, yeah. I mean, not cheaper,
Faster.
quicker,
Yeah.
yeah. Definitely not cheaper.
One of the beautiful things about our current plant is it was built in 1940 and it's still operating. If we build a metal building, that's gonna have a much shorter lifespan, I assume, right?
Well, the only thing it does is, it extends the life, really. I mean, now everything's outside and exposed. Really, we're gonna have to go in there and fix all the walls that are spalling and things like that too. Anything that we're keeping that's been exposed to the atmosphere. This will be covered, the membranes will be covered, they last for years, inside of, doesn't have to be heated and cooled, to a crazy degree, but if you put everything in a building, it just lasts longer, you don't have issues with algae growing and just.
So to translate what I just heard is the shell's pretty cheap, it's the equipment inside, it's the expensive part.
Exactly, yeah. And if you get into a lot of site work, like we got to build new lagoons or something, that's crazy expensive now for some reason. And building, just depends on, if you have skids that go in the building, you're not cutting holes in it, things like that, the cost per square foot is pretty reasonable. It's what you would, rule of thumbs that you would have in any building around here.
Yeah, I guess, it's kind of this, what would help to talk about, rule 2 and 3 and seeing what those numbers look like, is to kind of know, hey, what's the interest of the group to really push for? It doesn't mean we can't put reverse a little bit and go back and say, oh, that's just not gonna work, we go somewhere else. But I mean, is it a new plan pipeline that's really what we want to pursue? And then I can figure out how many accounts 3 and 4 have, or 3 and 4, making up the water district here. 3 and,
Let's get them all on board.
3 and 2, just kind of see what the numbers look like, so then we can go to them and say, hey, if we do this, this is what your water rates are gonna, those types of discussions are probably those next discussions we're gonna have. But it's gonna be pretty easy, a lot easier to say, this is kind of the one we're looking at. But I don't know if that makes you uncomfortable or not, and that's the concern I would have, but I'm trying to think of what's the easiest way to go forward to approach other people.
I like 4 because we're building this thing for quite a few years out. This is not a 10-year fix, and, we're talking another 40, 50 years potentially for this, so I think we gotta be thinking long-term and a good investment. And the people in Beloit have been saying years, we want quality, quantity of water, and they deserve the best quality of water, I think, that we can give them. And, the people that I've talked to about it say, hey, let's do it right this time, and let us get a continuous supply of quality water. And that's what I've been talking to people about.
I mean, I think this, the city council 20 years ago was talking about the same thing.
I'm sitting right here.
You voiced a lot of what I'm thinking too, and then from what the people I'm talking to, they, like I said, they're spending additional costs right now to process their water or to buy additional water for drinking or other purposes. That, to me, covers a good portion of the cost increase on your bill. Also, I'm uncomfortable with being maxed out and basically saying, okay, we put the new processor in this computer, but now you can't do anything more to it. You're gonna have to buy a new computer in 20 years or 5 years. You're basically maxed out on that plan once you've done what you've done. I want something where if in 15 years something occurs where we need to expand, we can, or if additional cleaning is required or processing is required, we can do it versus having to, you say, jury rig and try to figure out how to make it work in the plant. Because then we're just back to Band-Aids again, over and over.
What's our capacity running at right now? Jim? 1.2?
Capacity,
1.5?
what line?
What would it take us as a community to get up to where we're using to?
Well, here's a question. Are people using, I mean, this is kind of what we've been thinking about. Are people using as much water as they potentially could be?
I don't know.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
what
know.
I'm asking.
But that, yeah, but you know, that's, I guess I'm trying to say, I'm not asking you the answer. I mean, I'm more just saying, that's one thing we've thought about is 1.5 a real number, or is there a lot of people, you know, like myself and Andrew and everybody that are buying bottled water, supplementing in other ways that, you know, that's, you start tacking on a couple hundred gallons here, a couple hundred gallons there. That's just one idea. You know, as far, you know, the other thing would be, I guess, would be is if we got rural 2, which I don't know how much water they use, you know, I don't know, they're a pretty big user, but, I guess, you know, that's something we'd wanna know up front, but I don't know the answer to that question, you know, a big customer, how much they would use, you know, you got that one big commercial customer, that's a real customer, you know, they're using $250,000 a year, or $250,000 a month, you know.